What is up? Welcome to WireTapped. This is Club Fantasy's weekly waiver wire show, and as we head into week 8, I think we're all in a little bit of trouble. Is it the Bye-Mageddon, the Bye-Apocalypse? I don't want to offend anybody. 6 teams are on bye. Your rosters are in trouble. Let's see what we can do to help. What is up? Good morning. Welcome to WireTapped, Club Fantasy's weekly waiver wire show. I am your host, Ryan Weiss. With me, as always, though maybe sporadically through this episode, Joshua Hudson. Josh, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, sporadically might be the key word there. To our audience that's listening, I just want to preface this. I'm kind of taking care of my mother right now. She broke her leg while she was on vacation. Some things that have popped up. So if I need to step away for a little bit, Ryan's got you covered with notes. So
yeah, I'll run the show. Where it'll get weird is I'll probably just have to answer all of your questions because bouncing back and forth to the show sheet and also running the show gets a little wild, but we're going to make it through. I'm certain of it. I'll remind you right here at the top, if you guys like the show that we're putting out every single week, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you want to hear it again next week. Every Tuesday at 11 a.m. we go live. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. And Josh, before we get the show underway and before you need to step away, talk to the folks about our partnership with Trophy Smack.
Yeah, fantasy football season's here, and Trophy Smack is where you want to get all of your rewards. They have trophies, rings, championship belts, all of it designed to tell your league mates who the real champion is. So hit the link in the description of this podcast and check out some of the swag that you can get to gloat and lord your accomplishments over your league mates. It is all available at trophysmack.com/club fantasy.
Seeing a bunch of familiar names in the chat. Good morning, Gator J. Good morning, Jonathan Santiago. I will point out, everybody in the chat probably knows this, we answer every single question. We try to fit them in between segments. Feel free to drop your questions. If you have questions after the show ends, I will also remind everybody we have a completely free Discord that you can join. We talk waiver wire, we talk DFS, we do a little bit of things that aren't even fantasy football related. Ton of great club fantasy people in there. If you're looking to chat with some good people, jump into that Discord. Link will be in the description of this video. And let's start this thing off with news and notes. We tend to only cover the news and notes from what we haven't covered already. So we talked a lot about injuries yesterday. Unfortunately, after the Monday night game, we have more injuries to talk about. Josh, my player of the week, Nico Collins, leaves the game with a concussion and a disappointing 8-point fantasy week. But I think the biggest heartbreak of the season, we kind of knew the streak was coming to an end, but now it's officially over. Mike Evans will not hit 1,000 yards this season. Broken clavicle, not expected back till December for the most part. I read, done for the season. It was a good run. Not a great 2025 for Michael Evans.
Yeah, and this was always I'm using this term very loosely, and I don't want it to come across like I was rooting for this, but this was always the best case scenario for Emeka Egbuka, right? Older wide receivers in front of him. He was, quote, buried on the depth chart because of that. Godwin, slow start, but coming back from the injury. Obviously, Evans goes down with a hamstring and now a broken clavicle. This is what, if you're a Bucs fan and obviously a fan of any of these guys that you don't want to see, but if you spent that draft capital on Emeka Egbuka, this was the best case scenario for you.
Yeah. And it also means some interesting waiver pickups heading into this upcoming week. I see a tight end streamer question. I feel like Cade Otton's going to gain some value with Mike Evans out, though he didn't gain a ton of value with Mike Evans out previously. Jay's holding out hope that Mike Evans comes back for the last 3 games and goes 300 yards a pop. I hope so. Josh,
that would be an NFL record in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Let's get into the top 5 waiver ads from my article that dropped on clubfantasyffl.com this morning. Last week, Josh, Jackson Dart was the thumbnail, and my goodness, was I right? That's 2 weeks in a row. My thumbnail is absolutely smashing. Let's see if we can make it 3 in a row. I broke my rule yet again. Last week, it was a quarterback. This week, it is a tight end. Oronde Gadsden is my number 1 pickup. So for the tight end streamer question, my answer is probably Oronde Gadsden. At number 2, I'm going with Xavier Legette. At number 3, I'm going with Kyle Monongai. At number 4, I fucked up, and it's Bam Knight. How did you fuck up, Brian? The Arizona Cardinals are on bye, folks. I do not include bye week people in my top 5. I screwed up. Plain and simple. This should be Tez Johnson. Bam Knight's not bad, though. He does have Dallas in week 9. So if you can hold him through this bye, which I'm going to recommend against for the most part, if you can, he does have a great matchup in week 9. However, Chimere Dike, Josh makes his first appearance on this list. And I pointed this out in my article, Josh. 33 picks higher than Elik Ayamanar in the draft was Chimere Dike. So maybe he's the Titans wide receiver to emerge. But I want to talk a little bit about Oronde Gadsden, Josh, because we talked about this for rookie tight ends forever. And we talked about this on this show or our Monday show this season. Tight ends can take time, plain and simple. Gadsden took 6 weeks, 7 catches in each of the last 2 weeks. A few weeks ago, I told folks, keep him on your taxi squad. Tight ends take too much time. Josh, he's clearly emerging as a part of this offense. And this is an offense that historically has played well with fantasy tight ends. But we thought after the last couple of years, because they haven't had a really, really good tight end, it would take a step back. As a Syracuse fan, I knew Gadsden was a good receiver. I didn't know if he would earn enough trust to get on the field. It seems to be working out right now.
Well, I mean, just think back to Greg Roman's time in Baltimore when they drafted a couple of tight ends. One of them was known to be a good blocker. The other one was a much better receiver. And then who popped really early? It was the receiver. And that receiver was Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
When Oronde Gadsden was drafted, that was the comparison. It was, oh, he can be the Mark Andrews in Greg Roman's offense. Now, clearly, we've seen a very different version of this Greg Roman offense this year. They're letting Justin Herbert sling it. Of course, it hasn't helped matters any that they now have lost Marion Hampton as well as Najee Harris. So they've had to kind of pivot. But even while they had both of those guys, they were throwing at an astronomical rate that has not been seen from a Greg Roman offense. So just the sheer volume of pass attempts lends itself to, hey, maybe there's room for Gadsden. Because when you look at everything else here, they have 3 top wide receivers that are earning targets.
Yep.
Ladd McConkey's finally starting to come back around. Keenan Allen, once again, another solid week after a down week against, I believe it was Miami. Quentin Johnston coming back from the injury, scores a touchdown. So, like, they're getting all these pieces involved. And Gadsden being the 4th target here is still eating, set a record, or the season high right now in tight ends and receiving yards. So there's going to be plenty of room for Gadsden. And we should be taking notice because we don't know when Amarian Hampton's coming back.
Yep.
Like they seem to be like, oh, it's this, but oh, wait, maybe it's this. And oh, wait, maybe it might be season ending. Like there's so many conflicting reports. So we kind of have to treat this as, you know what, they're just going to keep throwing it. And if that's the case, Gadsden's going to see 6+ targets every week.
Yeah, and it's something I've talked about recently a lot is running back targets and tight end targets kind of interact with one another. And when you go to these lesser running backs, Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins, they're not going to take the same target volume that Amarian Hampton or Najee Harris were going to take. And this was already a team that didn't throw to their running back a lot. This just opens up more targets for Gadsden without it having to come from one of the wide receivers. And I agree with you. Obviously, I like him a lot as a pickup this week.
Yep, I'm all on.
Quickly to touch on Xavier Legette, because our good buddy Gator J, the first thing out of his mouth is, well, do we trust Andy Dalton? And I should have just responded, bitch, did we trust Bryce Young? This offense is hard to trust. But Josh, it's something we've alluded to for a while because we like to make comparisons. Certainly, I like to make comparisons. This is a Tampa Bay-esque audience offense. And this could be the Chris Godwin role. We saw high targets from Xavier Legette this week. It's something when you look at this offense moving forward, they're going to have to keep throwing. They're going to throw a ton against Buffalo this week. I'll take a shot on Xavier Legette when I have 6 teams on bye.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of tooting this horn throughout the offseason while everybody was on the Jalen Coker bandwagon. This offense was setting itself up for Tetero McMillan to play that more Mike Evans, big X role, and then Legette being the former first-round pick from 2 years ago, kind of sliding into that, hybrid inside-out Chris Godwin role. Jalen Coker is more of like a slot exclusive wide receiver.
Yep.
So I think that kind of lent itself why a lot of people were, oh, well, Coker plays in the slot. Like that's going to be his role. Legette can do that.
Yeah.
And Legette is a very raw talent. Like there were many people, myself included, that were very surprised when he ended up being a first-round pick. But it's not crazy because he has talent. It's just very unrefined talent.
Yeah.
And so now spend another year in this system, starts to get a little bit more comfortable. We've seen a lot of headaches with Legette this season. I mean, 8 targets for -2 yards. Like that was a literal stat line this season.
Laughable stat line.
It was laughable. And then, bounces back and you see something like this and it's like, okay, the talent is there. Get out of your head. Let's play the fucking game because you know how to do it. So some matchups, sure, maybe he's a little bit more matchup dependent, but like you alluded to, Ryan, we have 6 teams on a bye this week. You're going to be desperate for spot starts.
We're going to do some weird shit.
Exactly. I hate starting players after big games like this, especially when we probably had them on the waiver wire, because it blows up your face every time. Trey Tucker. Like, it happens. But Andy Dalton is a veteran. He's going to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers. Those playmakers are Tedero McMillan and Xavier Legette.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to someone had a comment about they've been holding DK this entire season, and they brought up a really good point about his return yards. I'm struggling to find that comment, though. There we go. Jonathan Santiago, just to wrap up this section with Chimere Dike being my 5th player. Return yards are another part of his game. He added 97 return yards this past week, too. So if you are in a league that gives return yards, I think that's very, very interesting. He says he's debating starting him over Jordan Mason or Pickens because of the matchup. If Aaron Jones is back, Josh, I think I'd be willing to gamble on DK over Jordan Mason this week.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting points for return yards, it certainly doesn't help. But Ryan, I want to go to your point when you were talking about how DK was drafted 33 spots ahead of AMA.
Yeah.
Teams do this all the time. They will prioritize returners over potential starters on their offense simply because special teams is just that third phase of the game. And, DK offers a lot, even as a receiver as well. Like he plays that more Z type role in an offense. And that's something that I talked about over the offseason where AMA profiles more as like a traditional X, which this offense didn't have. And DK profiles more as a Z, which of course they have with Calvin Ridley. Well, Calvin Ridley goes down. Who steps into that role? It's DK. So it wasn't crazy to me that it happened, but also felt a little off simply because it wasn't a great matchup. But hey, they said, we're going to get him involved. They got him involved, and he has some talent, and it's clear that he does. So, and I'll give a shout out to Hoove, our buddy with Club Fantasy, because he was the one that turned me on to DK. He talked a lot about DK in the offseason, which again, I just kind of dismissed it. I'm like, look, the kid's a returner. He's not going to make that kind of an impact. And you know what? Maybe this is the only real game that we get an impact from. But as long as Calvin Ridley is out, we need to be paying attention to DK.
And I kind of alluded to that in the article, but I also alluded to this. For those who missed the news yesterday, the Titans willingly released Tyler Lockett at the drop of a hat. This seems like a team that's willing to focus on their youth. They're not going to give up on Calvin Ridley, though. It was on this show last week. People floated the Calvin Ridley possible trades. I don't see it happening, but they're also not going to rush an older receiver back from a hamstring injury when they can see what they have out of this kid. So it should be interesting. That is going to wrap up the top 5. You will find a full article available on the website right now, clubfantasyffl.com. Just as a reminder, Oronde Gadsden, Xavier Legette, Kyle Monongai, Bam Knight, Chimere Dike, and I would throw Tez Johnson in there because you shouldn't be going after Bam Knight right now, but it's in the article already. Just a quick reminder, we're going to talk about it a lot in this show. Let me get it away here at the top. 6 teams on bye this week, and they are some fantasy performers. The Detroit Lions and the Rams, big fantasy performers. Seahawks and Jaguars have done a lot for us. Raiders and Cardinals have not, but Lions, Raiders, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and Jags all on bye this week. And when I usually give this advice, I tell you guys, watch the drops. People are going to be desperate this week. You could see people, if it had been one more week, you could have saw Travis Hunter dropped. You may see Brian Thomas.
They've already seen Travis Hunter drop that people were listening to us. So
yeah, ain't that the damn truth? But yeah, like I said, you could see some desperation drops. So not only get your waivers in tonight, it is so important to watch who was dropped tomorrow, because this could be a very interesting second run of waivers. Josh, let's get to the chat. Our buddy Gator J says, are there any good ads for Scott Fishbowl? Because again, 6 teams owned by Scott Fishbowl, a deep league. I think it's 22, 24 roster spots or something like that among 12 teams. Yeah, it's a lot of roster spots. And so I think, first of all, Chimere Dike is available in my Scott Fishbowl. I will be putting in a claim for him, though we don't get the return points anymore. But Josh, when you look at this, you're looking for players that I guess could surprise you. Jalen Noel. I'm just looking at the people who are available in my Scott Fishbowl right now.
That's
Julian
literally what
Hill,
I'm pulling up right now.
Yes, Julian Hill with Darren Waller set to miss some time. I'm only looking at the guys who are available in my exact league. So, I mean, putting it bluntly, the pickings are slim and they are ugly. And Josh, me and you said this at the beginning of the show. You could basically say that about waivers this week in just about any league.
Yeah. DK is available in mine. Jalen Noel is one I would definitely pay attention to. He was getting a lot more run
after Nico Collins
Nico went down, and obviously Christian Kirk being out. Xavier Hutchinson, another one. If Nico ends up having to miss some time, he was a big target guy towards the second half of that game.
I guess the best way to do this is to look at the show sheet for the guys that I have listed for
in your 14 team. Yeah, that would kind of be
Devin Neal with Kendry Miller going down. Brashard Smith got some play in junk time, garbage time. Malik Washington starting to see some targets. Chris Moore probably got picked up this past week. If Alec Pierce has been dropped because he's been missing time, he seems to have a better role now moving forward. I guess those are some of the
Dalton
guys.
Kincaid's out, Dawson Knox potentially, because it's very tight end heavy scoring.
Yep. So it's a rough one. It makes me wish when with waivers, I wish return yards would have still counted for something. Yeah. Just something, Scott. You didn't have to take it completely away. Josh, we touched on this a little bit yesterday. How are we feeling about the Daniels injury? Basically, we said it's rough and it doesn't kill the Washington offense for us, because we've seen the Washington offense perform with Marcus Mariota, but it certainly caps their damn ceiling.
Yeah, certainly caps the ceiling. This is what we covered in our panic or chill the fuck out section yesterday. With Daniels, for me, I'm panicking if we're still expecting him to be a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah.
But if we're okay taking the downgrade to a QB, 10 overall, QB 12, it's chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
We don't love the injuries, obviously. When you're taking good players off the field, quite frankly, it sucks and it kills our fantasy production. But I mean, if they're going to continue to be without their top 3 wide receivers, I mean, his ceiling was going to be capped anyway.
Yeah.
So if he's missing time while they're missing time, okay, cool. Now, if they get Terry McLaurin, Debo, Noah Brown, you get all them back, and then Daniels is missing 3 games, now I'm really upset.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of wasted fantasy production at that point.
Yeah, it also hurts the running backs that were already kind of mediocre starts, and we talked about them being everybody on that team basically is a terrible start against Kansas City this week.
Yep.
Jonathan Santiago says, who's the better pickup, Oronde Gadsden or Mark Andrews with Lamar coming back? And Josh, I'll remind you and Jonathan in the audience, Mark Andrews in the first 2 weeks of the season had 2 catches for 10 yards total in 2 weeks with Lamar Jackson. Give me Oronde Gadsden every time.
Yeah, I'm taking Gadsden, more pass-happy offense. I understand what Lamar is capable of, but at this point, and we were saying it even leading into this season, Andrews is just touchdown dependent. And with how that offense has looked, they need to get the ground game going.
Yeah, who are you expecting to score touchdowns?
Like, and I'm right now I'm going to bank on Lamar and Derrick Henry, because they need to get the identity of that offense back. For as much as I like Mark Andrews, he's not the identity of that offense.
I like it. Well, we dropped Michael Carter for Kenneth Gainwell. His league does count return yards.
Well, with Carter out this week, yeah, go get Gainwell.
Yeah, I was going to say. And you get Carter out. You get Trey Benson likely back in week 10. Carter's value is dropping by the week. Carter is not a hold. That'll come up in our drop section in just a little bit. Joseph Navarro needs a tight end stream and a bye week running back spot start. What should he prioritize, the tight end or the running back? This is interesting because the issue is exactly what he ends this question with. The tight ends are good and can start for you multiple weeks. The running backs are shit and are probably only going to start for your team this week, Josh. To me, I prioritize these Gadsden, Taylor, Monongai, Smith. Exactly how I would go after them.
I mean, if you need a spot start at running back, to me, that's more important than a streamer. Okay. Because again, you're starting multiple running backs. You're only starting one tight end.
Yeah.
So I'm going to prioritize them. I just want to look at the matchups before I answer this question, because for me, involvement would be Rashad Smith. And the Chiefs play the Commanders. Yeah. Give me Smith over Monongai.
Good chance you're running into another garbage time game, which is what it took for Smith to be very relevant.
The way the Chiefs are firing on all cylinders right now. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying there. To me, it was the other way around that I don't know if I guess I don't know who his actual tight end is right now. I'm guessing it's like Trey McBride or Brock Bowers. But like to me, it's like I could start if I get Oronde Gadsden, I could start him until week 12 when they have their bye week. So I was focusing more on who can help me long term. But I guess if you have a really good tight end and it's just
I would assume it's probably if they need a streamer this week, I would go so far as it's probably McBride or Sam Laporta, because right now Bowers, you would have already had a streamer.
That's a good point. You'd have one on roster already,
because he hasn't played
unless you just pivoted to Mayer. But regardless,
yeah. So. Monongai's got a great matchup against Baltimore this week, but again, like
it took rain and weird weather.
Exactly. As bad as Baltimore is on defense, if they get Lamar back, I don't think this game is a blowout, and I don't think you're going to see as much Monongai. But again, when you're trying to guess on, blowouts and all these kind of things, it burns you every time. I thought Bucks and Lions was going to be a shootout, and that game killed all my bet slips. Let me tell you. Joseph, you mentioned Mason Taylor's your streamer.
Yeah, that definitely means you.
I would stick with him this week. He's got a decent matchup.
Yeah, you do not need to prioritize going after Gadsden. Yeah. Go after the running back. Absolutely exactly what I was going to say there, Josh. Keenan, 12-team league, should he drop Kendrick Bourne? Any flex plays we recommend? He also needs a wide receiver since JSN is on bye. That's the whole point of this show. I'll jump ahead a little bit. For wide receiver, the guys I'm looking at in a normal size league, I think Tez Johnson and Kayshon Boutte. I know Boutte has the Browns, but it's worth a look. Troy Franklin is a guy I'm looking at. And then if Nico Collins is going to miss time and Christian Kirk is coming back, Josh, I think he could be an interesting priority on the waiver this week.
Yeah, if Kirk comes back, then we definitely should be prioritizing Kirk, I think, as one of the top waiver pickups at wide receiver.
Yeah.
If that's the case, yeah, I mean, I'm fine dropping Bourne. Don't love his matchup
100%.
this week. And, with everybody starting to come back, he was always going to fall back by the wayside anyway. A little surprising he fell back by the wayside, and then George Kittle had 0 catches, but I digress. Tez Johnson's got a great matchup against the Saints. Definitely like him this week. Kirk, Noel, one of those Texans guys. Xavier Hutchinson actually is probably more. I would go Kirk, Hutchinson, Noel was kind of that would be the order that I would rank him in. But again, it does Kirk play because he's missed 3 of the last 4 weeks. So, 3 of the last 5 weeks, excuse me. So, yeah, official answer for the running backs.
Oh, it's fine. It's Brashard Smith. We think
that's what we said.
We're guessing at the blowout because it's going to take a blowout for really either of these guys. But the Chiefs are far more likely to get a blowout this week. So,
yeah. Well, and he's more involved in the receiving game than Monongai too. So.
That's true too. Smitty, running backs are Monty, Brees, Hendo, and White. Would we trade DK for Jalen Warren? Josh, you know my rule. If they're equal, I'll trade for the running back every time. I'm definitely trading for the running back here.
Yeah, I like DK, obviously. I've been a big fan for a while. He was a top 12 guy for me heading into this season. Target volume is very spotty, and he's very touchdown dependent because otherwise it's, 3 for 50, 4 for 60, 4 for 80. Like those are the types of games that you're getting from DK. You need the running back floor, I think, a lot more in this case because I'm officially worried about Brees. Monty is going to be hit or miss. Hendo, you might as well just drop. And then White goes back into non-existence once Bucky comes back. So
there you go. Joseph Navarro, who should we look for a spot start at the flex? Tampa Bay wide receivers, Buffalo wide receivers, or Xavier Legette? The issue being he's already starting Tedoroa McMillan. Josh, if I'm playing for ceiling, it's Tez Johnson. If I'm playing for floor, it's Sterling Shepard. I'm definitely going with a Tampa Bay wide receiver in this question.
I don't even know if Shepard's a floor at this point. He looked not great against
4 fantasy points.
Backup freaking Lions secondary. Tez is certainly the ceiling. I mean, I get it with the Buffalo wide receivers because it's Josh Allen, but Josh Allen hasn't looked all that great either. And Palmer has really not popped in that offense the way that I had hoped. Keon targets are sometimes there, sometimes they're not. Truthfully, the guy that you want in that passing attack is Dalton Kincaid. So, yeah, I'm going to lean Tez Johnson here.
There you go. Keenan says, will we drop Hunter Henry for my boy, Oronde Gadsden? Josh, I think I would. I will say, looking at my rankings right now, I think I have Henry ahead of him. But Henry's the floor play, whereas Gadsden's the ceiling play. And for tight end, I'll play for the damn ceiling. So
yeah, that's essentially what it is. Henry's always been touchdown dependent anyway. He's not a 7 for 100 guy or even an 8 for 80 guy. Like he's a 4 for 50 on a great day, and then one of those days he might get 8 for 60 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I would agree. He's definitely more of the floor play. Chasing ceiling is never a bad thing at tight end because get the points where you can, truthfully.
Exactly. George, is Gadsden worth rostering over Fannin? Josh, if I knew David Njoku was missing the rest of the season, this answer is an easy no. I like Fannin. Gadsden has the room to himself. I'm taking Oronde Gadsden yet again.
I mean, when Justin Herbert's throwing the ball 37 times a game and Dylan Gabriel can't throw 5 yards down the field at 25 times a game, you tell me which piece of which offense you want. I don't care where Fannin ranks. I want Gadsden.
There you go. Keenan, who are we liking better this week, Chubb or Marks? Mark, not that either looked good running the ball last night, but Marks once again finds the ball as a receiver, Josh. And with the receiver issues Houston might be running into, I'm leaning Woody Marks in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I would go as well. Man, that offense looked so bad. But I'll tell you what, that play calling was god awful in last night's game. And Ryan, I know you didn't really watch much or any of it, but yeah, they could not get Chubb going. Woody Marks, got stonewalled at the goal line on multiple occanes. His touchdown catch.
The yards per carry wear that out.
Yeah. His touchdown catch came at one of the final drives when they were playing catch up. The defense carried them in this matchup. Even seeing Nico with 10 targets and only 4 catches breaks my heart because I bet on him for an anytime touchdown and he killed my parlay, but whatever.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know it was 10 targets. I knew he had a bad week and went out with a concussion. I didn't realize he played enough to get 10 targets and didn't do shit with them. So
yeah, he had 10 targets, 4 catches, 27 yards. He literally didn't do shit. This game was all Dalton Schultz because that was the only wide receiver that their only target that they could utilize, honestly. But yeah, probably Marks simply because they've got to do something, and running the football is not going to get it done. San Francisco's defense is up next. We know D'Amico Ryans knows that team really well. Robert Saleh being there. I think you're going to get another, we've got to throw to keep up because we can't do anything else. And with all the injuries that they're dealing with, the lack of offensive line, I think they're going to throw the ball more. So I would lean Marks.
There you go. Smitty says, let's just get Brees to LA already. Come on.
Yeah, honestly.
No lies detected. Folks, I see a lot of new names in the chat. We answer every single question. We are going to knock out a segment real quick. Once we come back from that segment, we will go ahead and dive right in to the chat questions. Once again, we call this segment Waiting in the Kiddie Pool. We started an 8-team league this year because we saw how enthusiastic our listening audience was about 18 leagues. And Josh is going to give you some of the spot starts you need in that league with the Buy-Mageddon going on right now. Josh, who do you like in the smaller leagues?
Yeah, not a lot to choose from, let me tell you. And my picks last week were pretty trash, especially at the quarterback position because fuck Fields and fuck Caleb Williams. But no, I'm going to lean into the Packers against Green Bay this week. Jordan Love at Pittsburgh. Romeo Dobbs at Pittsburgh.
Oh, what Joe Flacco did.
Yeah, right. That's exactly. I have a good feeling that Pittsburgh is going to bounce back. Not saying it's going to be all that great because, again, they can run the football very effectively with Josh Jacobs. I think their corners are massively overrated because of their age. And they've got enough weapons, especially the speed of Matthew Golden, that they can challenge them. Romeo Doubs is that preferred target, but ever since they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick, they don't have a safety that can cover Tucker Kraft. He's going to eat him alive. All that's going to do is draw attention to Kraft. It's going to open up opportunities for Golden and Romeo Doubs. So I like that Packers passing offense this week against Pittsburgh. And again, it's a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's going to have something to prove because, his mentor on the other sideline, so wants to show him up. Then outside of that, I think you're getting into some more like deeper league targets. But again, when you have 6 players,
it's about
on a bye, like this is kind of what you're going through. I like Marvin Mims versus Dallas. That is a high-powered offense. They are going to throw the football, and they're going to challenge one of the better defenses in the NFL. Why can't Marvin Mims do it? I mean, they were looking his way quite a bit when they had to come from behind to beat the Giants of all teams. So, just imagine this really good defense gives up 32 points to the Giants. They might be looking at 52 to the Dallas offense. Let's be real here. So they're going to have to throw to keep up. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier with tight ends, I like Mason Taylor against Cincinnati. I get it. The quarterback situation is dog shit. Justin Fields being benched, potentially being lapped altogether heading into this week's game. But I think with a full week to prepare, Tyrod Taylor brings his team out and actually gets them going. But the way that Joe Flacco is throwing the football right now, which again, apologies for completely doubting this guy because holy shit, apparently 2 really good wide receivers changes your whole dynamic.
Yeah, amazing how that works.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. They're gonna have to throw to keep up. Tyrod Taylor can make the throws.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can't throw on Cincinnati. And without Garrett Wilson, you got to throw to somebody. So,
and Cincinnati's terrible against the tight end. They've not played well against the position.
Exactly.
Thank you, Josh. So those are the players you're looking for in those 8-team leagues this week. And I like what Josh brought up is don't be afraid to start some of these deeper league targets. In an 8-team, it's about maximizing points. Everybody is starting great lineups. You need to focus on who's going to get you the most points. Marvin Mims against Dallas, that's sneaky. Dallas still is giving up a ton of points to wide receivers. So back to the chat. Keenan says, ETN was disappointing this week. I think that's 3 weeks running. Travis Etienne has been disappointing. Is there any hope for them soon? Josh, we've been saying this offense, all in all, just looks dysfunctional and bad. I hate to say this because I was high on ETN and I bought him in a dynasty league. I think the sell window is what people should have been looking for. I don't know that he's going to bounce back to the top 10 performance we saw in the first month of the season.
Yeah, I got to find his rest of the season schedule. I literally just traded for him in one league. So this
yeah,
is
I was going to say,
I
bought him in a dynasty when I thought I was contending, and now I look like an asshole because I got my ass kicked this week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jags are on a bye this week, so that sucks. But I mean, his next 5 games at Vegas, good matchup.
Yeah.
At Houston, not great matchup. Though he did have 56 and a touchdown against them in week 3.
I was going to say, I thought he beat up on them a little bit.
And then the following 3, week 11, 12, 13, home to the Chargers, decent matchup.
Yeah.
At Arizona, good matchup.
Should be good. Yeah.
At Tennessee, good matchup.
Should be good. So it's a schedule thing. And I was going to point that out when you look at his disappointing games. It was against the Seahawks, the Rams, and someone else good who I can't think of right now. Who was it? KC. There you go. So the schedule isn't doing
3 good run defenses.
It's sort of like what we talked about with Saquon Barkley. Don't expect top 5, but he's probably still a top 15 back.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's a matchup dependent RB2, which is fine.
And you hope they start throwing to him more. I would have expected more this week with Brenton Strange out. We only saw 3 targets this week.
Yeah, he only has 2 games over 3 targets this season.
Yeah, super weird. Jason William, it's a 2 QB league. He has Lamar, Baker, and Penix. Which quarterbacks would you prioritize? Dalton, Wentz, Cousins, Rush, or Huntley? I mean, the only one on this list I would prioritize is Dalton because he's likely to play. If Penix were out, I'm not playing Cousins. I guess Wentz is interesting because I don't know if they're going to bring JJ back on a short week. I don't want Huntley or Rush. I only want Dalton and Wentz out of this group, Josh.
Yeah, it's kind of where I would lean. I mean, Lamar being iffy this week, Baltimore's not on a bye, right? No, Baltimore's not.
No, they have
quarterbacks.
Baltimore's versus Chicago.
That's right. Okay. Which again, their defenses look pretty solid, but again, I know he didn't practice or was limited or something on Monday, I think. So reports are still up in the air whether or not he's going to play or not play. I mean, if you have a second spot, I mean, prioritizing Rush Cousins makes sense as backups. But I mean, we've seen Cooper Rush right now. They benched him for Huntley, so I'm not really looking at that Baltimore anyway. Dalton is a starter, at least for this week. I think they've already said that Bryce Young's likely out. I think they called it a high ankle sprain. Wentz Thursday night. Who do the Vikings play this week?
That would be the Los Angeles
Chargers. Okay.
At Los Angeles.
I mean, probably gonna go Dalton, honestly.
Yeah, I would call it Dalton then Wentz because there's still a chance Wentz isn't even the starter this week.
Yeah, that Bills defense is dog shit. So give me Dalton.
Jason William, would we drop Amenor for Travis Hunter or Tez Johnson, and which would we prioritize? I'm back in on Travis Hunter. He showed his ceiling. This is what you want. It's Travis Hunter for me.
Yeah, it just sucks that the Jags are on a bye this week. I mean, if you need a spot start, I think it has to be Tez Johnson.
Yeah, if you have to start somebody this week, it's Tez.
But Travis Hunter is definitely more the stash.
Yep. Fantasy sport along that same line, irrespective of need, who is the better pickup? Tez Johnson, Oronde Gadsden, Kyle Monongai, Keyshawn Boutte, Brashard Smith. If you don't have a need, honestly, Josh, I'm looking at this. I think he has it in the right order. This is exactly how I would prioritize them.
If you're looking at this just in overall value, to me, it's Boutte, it's Gadsden, then it's Tez, and then Monongai and Smith.
Okay. He did point out he has George Kittle as his starting tight end. Basically has no need at running back with JT, CMC, and Henry, and then has AJ Brown, London, and Rice. So he's truly right about no need, except is Kittle a need right now? No, I'm joking.
Well, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, if you're not loving what you saw from Kittle the first week back, and obviously him being older, maybe hamstring injury pops up again, then maybe you want to prioritize Gadsden. But again, like for me, I'm just looking at it in terms of what these players are doing and how they can more often than not affect my team.
Yeah.
Tight end, you're starting one. That's it. With wide receivers, you're starting
100%.
Sometimes up to 4, right? So for me, that's why I would put those wide receivers first. Boutte's just I think he has a more prominent role in his offense.
And they have a super late bye week.
And again, week 14 bye. So, with Tez, his size scares me. I'm going to be 100% honest. Yeah. Kid's electric. I love watching him play. I think he's a great story. One hit and that kid's in a wheelchair. I'm sorry.
It's fair.
Like it truly does scare me. But, I know Evans isn't coming back anytime soon. For all I know, Godwin may not be coming back anytime soon. Ibuka's dealing with this hamstring injury, and that's why I took the under on his receptions.
Yeah.
Because, all it takes is one little tweak. And I understand it was a low-grade strain, but he didn't look like he was running full speed at all yesterday. So that has me a little worried for Ibuka over the next few weeks before they get him involved. So I think Tez will be more involved. But I don't know how involved that's going to be beyond the next few weeks. You know what I mean? Fair. Boutte, I think, has a role rest of season. Yeah.
And yeah, Boutte, obviously, we were really high on him when this whole thing started, and then he kind of let us down, and some people were dropping him. Don't completely forget your preseason priors. Boutte would have been the best one of this group in the preseason, for sure. I like that. DK for Saquon, again, I'm making this trade immediately, even with Saquon down. Josh, you've been saying this for a while. You think the Eagles are going to start prioritizing getting that passing or rushing game back on track. I think this is a great trade.
Yeah, and honestly, let's not forget when Nick Sirianni first came to Philly, he was the play caller. And all they did was throw the football. Like, I understand Sirianni wants to run the football. That's the mentality of this football team. But right now, our offensive line is not run blocking very well. if that's the case, put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands.
Yeah.
You've got two really good wide receivers. Saquon Barkley knows how to catch the football out of the backfield. And they talked all offseason about how they wanted to lighten his rushing load, but still get him involved in the passing game. So that way he makes an impact on these games. We haven't seen that yet. So maybe they need to throw the wrinkle now that the wide receivers have shown that, hey, we're back. We're here. We never actually left because we are that damn good. When teams start playing deep on them and taking away some of those, softer coverages, they need to look at Goddard underneath. They need to look at Saquon in the flat and let Saquon's athletic ability take over.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this trade.
Yep, I'm making it. That's for damn sure. When we trade Pickens for Bucky, this is a tough one, Josh, because Pickens is performing. To me, this is tier
it was all without
up.
Lamb, though.
Yeah, exactly. To me, this is a tier up, and Pickens' situation has changed. I'm making this trade.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It sucks that we still don't actually know when Bucky's coming back.
Yeah. I didn't like how the Bucky injury all went down, where it was all mysterious and happening in the media. And I don't know. All of it seemed kind of weird.
I don't know. He's missed 3 games. If he misses a 4th, they may as well just put him on IR, which really blows. But, if you RBs are at a need right now. So I think I'm making this deal, honestly.
Yep. And then Keenan will wrap this section up with Keenan's question. Chances Nico misses time this week. I always point out we are not doctors, but I will say, Josh, concussions, and now it's kind of a short week. I would expect Nico Collins. I would call it 75% that he misses this week, and that's pure guesswork.
Yeah, it's definitely guesswork. Not a doctor. Did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express. Not making an official announcement there, but anytime you're dealing with concussions, plan for them to miss. Be surprised if they play.
There you go. I'll remind everybody, if you like what you're hearing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week at 11 a.m., hit that subscribe button. If you're
By the way, thank you all. We hit 1,700 subscribers today.
Boom! We needed 2. You guys took it out in the middle of the show. I didn't even bring it up. You guys are awesome. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. Chat's been popping today. If you want to give us a little bit of money to answer your question quicker, we do offer Super Chat. Josh, one last time before we move on to the rest of the show, let folks know about our partnership with Trophy Smack.
Yeah, fantasy football season's here, and Trophy Smack is where you want to get all of your rewards. They have trophies, rings, championship belts, all designed to tell your league mates who the real champion is. So hit the link in the description of this podcast to check out some of the swag. It is all available at trophysmack.com/club fantasy.
This show will wrap up about 12:30 today, maybe earlier. If you still have questions after the show is over, or if you're listening to the show after the fact, you can jump into a completely free Discord. Link in the description of this video. Josh is probably dropping it in the chat for you guys right now. We're always talking fantasy football in the Discord, and once again, it is completely free. Time to move on to our main section of the show, Morse Code. This is where we break down the waivers for 10 and 12 team leagues. Sometimes I list a player here just so we can remind you that they're a trap, because sometimes that's cracking the code, is figuring out who you also don't want to add. We break this down by position. Josh, when I look at the quarterbacks, first and foremost, Jackson Dart did not get above 50% rostered last week, which seems strange to me. But Jackson Dart, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time talking about this, but we can at least give a few more flowers to Jackson Dart. I said on this show last week, Jackson Dart was one of my favorite waiver wire ads, but you don't want to play him in week 7. Damn, do I look dumb. You did want to play him in week 7.
Well, and now he gets Philly again this week. 2 weeks ago, he freaking destroyed Philly.
Yeah.
So now it becomes, do you go back to the well thinking he's just going to up and do it again? Or after watching Philly this past week, is it a completely different Philadelphia team? Right? Yeah. They're going to have Quinyon Mitchell supposedly for this whole game. He played all of last week, completely shut down Justin Jefferson, only allowed 1 catch and 10 yards to Jefferson. Yeah. So, I want to say that Philly's going to get the best of Dart this week, but we still don't have a pass rush.
Yeah.
I understand we went and brought back Brandon Graham. He's not going to play this week. Let's be real here. And if he does, it's going to be 10 snaps.
Yeah.
So, and for as good as Brandon Graham is, he's always been a better run defender than a pass catcher. So I'm not going to look at this situation and say Dart is a must start, 25 fantasy point kind of thing. I think he's probably more in between 15 and 20 this week.
Josh, we got a super chat. Our buddy Tyler Speary. Is Mike Evans out for the year? Josh, the initial report I heard was out for the year. It was your report from this morning that says maybe December. So we're hearing kind of a little bit of conflicting there.
Yeah. Everything I've heard is basically he's going to be out for the fantasy season.
Okay.
So like kind of similar to like Joe Burrow, where they're saying that, it's like a 12-week injury and he'll be back sometime in December for the fantasy playoffs or whatever. That's essentially what I'm hearing right now for Evans. Now, again, not a doctor, have no official diagnosis. I'm just going off of what Twitter people are saying. But most, like your Schefters, your Ian Rappaports, what they're saying is that he's going to miss, quote, most of the year.
Yeah.
That's not an official done for the season. But here's the thing. Because the Bucs already put him on IR. They put him on short-term IR.
Yep.
I don't believe they can put him on IR again unless they're saying he's done for the year.
Actually, Josh, they didn't put him on IR this time.
No, when they for the hamstring, I believe they did. They put him on short term. They didn't.
He was listed as out every single week. I know that from doing my rankings. So
okay.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then they do have the ability to put him on IR with a designation to return. But broken clavicle, that's an 8-week injury at minimum.
You know what? I might be getting confused. It was CeeDee Lamb who didn't go to IR.
CeeDee didn't. Yeah. I believe Mike Evans did. So Evans, again, he can't go on IR twice without being done for the year.
Yeah.
So Tampa is going to have to play this a certain way. And all I can say, Tyler, is plan to not have Evans. Plain and simple.
I was gonna wrap this up in a nice bow. Tyler, I think the spirit of this question is, in redraft, is Mike Evans droppable? He is absolutely droppable. Yes. Certainly this week with 6 teams on bye and you need a roster spot, it is okay to drop my favorite player in fantasy football history, Mike Evans. Yes, he is very droppable. Josh, in this section, we move back on to the running backs, and we pointed this out numerous times in the show. With all these teams on bye, the names get a little bit ugly. Woody Marks is a guy who I'm shocked his thing dropped after a couple of bad weeks. People don't like to wait on running backs. Woody Marks is out there in about 45% of leagues. Tyjae Spears, Tyrone Tracy had a nice little touchdown this past week, Josh. Justice Hill coming off the bye. We've talked about this a lot. The Baltimore is constantly in a position where they need to throw the football. That's Justice Hill territory. It's not a great landscape for running backs, Josh, but these are the 4 I would look to prioritize, and we've already talked about. Not a bad matchup for Woody Marks this week in terms of Houston should have to throw the ball against San Francisco, and right now he seems to be the receiving back out of that backfield.
Yeah, Woody Marks would be the guy that I would prioritize out of this group. I know a lot of people were kind of hoping that Tyjae Spears would bounce back. He's not doing anything. Like, this is still Tony Pollard's backfield.
I was going to say, though, the one thing I like for Tyjae Spears, and I'm using that loosely, even though Tony Pollard led the running backs in targets, Tyjae Spears did have his own 4 targets this week, and I find that interesting when it comes to the first week under this new coaching regime.
Okay, now look at the week before when Brian Callahan was the head coach.
Yeah, it was like
the same fucking stat line.
Yeah.
Like, it did not change. His role hasn't changed. So that's why I'm not like, unless Tony Pollard is out, that's the only way that I'm really looking at Tyjae Spears. They're not using them as, rotational pieces, like a 50-50 split or anything like that. Like, it's more 60-40. That's the role here. And Spears will get his 5-7 carries. He'll get his 4 targets, and then whatever he does with it, he does with it. That's Tyjae Spears' role.
Yeah.
Woody Marks has a definitive role in this Houston Texans offense.
100%.
And it's going to be a very pass-happy role in the sense that this offense is pretty trashed without Nico Collins, and you're dealing with not 1, not 2, but 3 rookies that are playing prominent roles behind a trash offensive line.
Yeah.
So their dump-offs are going to be needed. Why do you think Dalton Schultz had 9 freaking catches this week?
Yeah.
Because they can't rely on rookies. Like, this was the issue that we were having earlier in the season when CJ Stroud looked like crap. Christian Kirk was out, and he's got to rely on Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who are young, inexperienced, and don't know what the fuck they're doing.
100%.
Christian Kirk came back. The offense looked competent. because now you have 3 veterans as CJ Stroud's top targets. You have Nico, you have Kirk, you have Schultz. When they play tough defenses, Nick Chubb can't get going. And if that's the case, they need to throw the football. Woody Marks is going to be the guy they're throwing the football to out of the backfield.
Yep. And then just as an added aside, Justice Hill, 13th in RB targets this season. It's just the way the Baltimore offense has been run. That's on a team that's already had their bye, and he is a backup running back, and he is 13th in RB targets this season. That's just what his role is, and he's a fun one. Moving on to the wide receivers, we just got a comment that says Tez Johnson is a must-add, and I have to agree wholeheartedly, Josh. I started this list and moved Tez right to the top. I think the top 2 targets are Tez Johnson and Kayshon Boutte. I think Troy Franklin deserves a look. Josh Downs is obviously battling back from this. I think it was a concussion. Josh Downs, Darnell Mooney still battling back from injury. Christian Kirk still battling back from injury. And Marvin Mims, Josh, I wasn't sure which section to put him in, but I do think both of these Denver receivers, certainly again this week in what should be a good game against Dallas, I think this Franklin and Mims are worth a look. But we spent most of the show talking about Tampa Bay, but I do think for the next 2 to 3 weeks, Tez Johnson is a guy you want on your team. Absolutely.
I think, Tez and Boutte are top of this list for a reason. Boutte's in a better offense. Well, let me rephrase that. He's in we'll call it a more complete offense, simply because their pieces right now are healthy. That's what I'll say. But Drake May is doing the damn thing. He's a QB3 in fantasy right now.
Yeah.
Like, we say it all the time. You want receivers attached to really good quarterbacks. Kayshon Boutte is that right now. Tez Johnson, working his way up. I mean, he's the bottom of the rung wide receiver and is now seeing the opportunity. Again, size just scares me. It's very similar with Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, we've seen Wan'Dale get broken in half and it cost him a season and a half. Like,
yep.
I worry that same thing is coming for Tez, but until that day happens, like, let's ride the wave. Let's get to it. Yeah, there's nothing impressive about Sterling Shepard. We've been saying it. He's a floor play, but that floor just seems to get lower and lower every single week.
Yeah. Because he had the fumble this week. He had 7 catches and 7 fantasy points.
Yeah. So, it's just really, but Tez offers some electricity. Caught a touchdown this past week. Ibuka struggling with the hamstring, obviously with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, etc. There's a chance that Tez is your number 2 target.
Yeah.
So we know that Baker's going to throw the football. Like, that becomes a must-add, I will say. Now, if you're asking if one of these guys has a higher ceiling than the other, I'm probably going to say Tez, simply because Baker is more of the gunslinger, whereas Drake May is doing a lot more with his legs right now and just being a very efficient game manager-esque quarterback that just has a really high ceiling as well. So that's kind of how I would rank those 2. The Denver wide receivers, I feel like Troy Franklin with that tipped pass touchdown is really what's carrying his entire week, because he hasn't done anything since week 2.
That's true.
He's playing basically just in the slot. That's it. Marvin Mims, they will move around a lot. They give him these jet sweeps. They use him in the return game. He's basically their wide receiver 2, but they've been getting Evan Ingram a lot more involved as well. But the thing to think here when it comes to Denver, they're not going to score 33 points every game, and certainly not every quarter. So let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit on Denver. But if I'm prioritizing one of these 2, for me, it is Evans over Franklin, simply because he's the one playing on the outside.
That's fair.
Or Mims over Franklin, excuse me.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah, you did say Evans. Because Franklin had a ton of targets. He's just not doing shit with them, which is so weird for a slot.
Well, he's another guy that gets broken in half with one hit. Like,
oh, absolutely. But I love what you brought up there. Is let's not forget that for 3 quarters, this Denver offense was cooked. And as we move on, Josh, and finish this section with the tight ends, I wasn't sure how many to put in this section, and there's one that's going to be controversial. because we've called him a drop for the last 3 weeks, but you have to remember it's a weird fucking week in fantasy right now. So Mason Taylor is the number one, Josh. I think Theo Johnson and Noah Fant have some interesting prospects moving forward, with Mike Gesicki going to the IR and Joe Flacco taking over at quarterback. Noah Fant was already more involved than Mike Gesicki, and now he kind of has it to himself. The controversial name is Juwan Johnson, because we have called this guy a cut. He finally pops back up as a volume play this past week. They kind of have a pass-friendly matchup this upcoming week against Tampa Bay. I don't know how you feel about dropping and re-adding and dropping and re-adding Juwan Johnson. He's certainly a streaming option and not a weekly starter. If I'm looking for a weekly starter, I am going to go after Mason Taylor.
Yeah, Mason Taylor, Theo Johnson would be the guys that I would prioritize. Fant and Johnson are streamers right now. Again, going back to what I said about Denver, like Juwan Johnson was a product of the fact that Spencer Rattler had to throw to keep up with the Bears offense. That's it. That is it.
That's fair.
Plain and simple. I mean, they had to throw the 3 weeks prior and he wasn't seeing any targets.
Yeah.
I'm at this point, I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever. Play the matchup. But Saints don't have a great matchup this week. So I'm perfectly fine leaving him on the bench. Philly's covered tight ends pretty well this season, and yet Theo Johnson still managed to score touchdowns against us 2 weeks ago. Yeah. But of this group, I'm definitely prioritizing Taylor. I like Theo more as a higher end streamer, somebody that I think you can rely on for multiple weeks at a time versus just like a one and done.
Yeah.
I would like to see, how much more Fant is involved with Flacco at quarterback. The way that he throws, because he's a high volume thrower, they can support 3 targets.
Yeah.
We know that Chase is going to get his. We know Higgins is going to get his. But then those third targets are kind of split between Fant and Chase Brown. Of course, we want to see Chase Brown because we all drafted him high and we need that value back.
Absolutely.
But, if Fant turns into a streamer, I think he's more matchup dependent than Chase Brown at this point.
That's fair.
Is what I would say.
Yep. Just a completely different offense now that Joe Flacco is there. Guys, I see all the questions piling up. We are going to get to those just after this section. We call it Mayday. Mayday, it is the players you are looking to drop this week, and I decided to do something a little different, calling it the bye week edition. We have 6 teams on bye. I only listed players from those 6 teams so we can talk about whether they're droppable or not, see if Josh and I agree. So just a reminder, on bye right now, the Lions, Raiders, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and Jags. Josh, when you look at these 6 quarterbacks, in my opinion, the only one you need to hold through this bye week is Matthew Stafford. Everybody else is droppable, including Jared Goff, who's like the QB7 right now. He's just too hit or miss for me to worry about holding him through a bye week.
Yeah, I mean, he's hit or miss, but in a good way, simply because the weapons are really good.
The hits are really high.
Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't, he doesn't offer any rushing upside. So, he's very dependent on 250 and 2 touchdowns, right? But again, when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had like 60 yards in the first freaking quarter, when you have Jahmyr Gibbs, when you have Sam Laporta, when you can go deep to Jameson Williams, like that 250 and 2 is pretty easy to hit every week, right?
Yeah.
So, that is, I would be okay holding Goff because to me, him and Stafford aren't any different in terms of fantasy production.
That's fair. Stafford's just, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. So I'll go with your argument there. At running back, Josh, I'm not dropping any of these starters. Let me be very clear. I do think any of your Cardinals running backs are dropped, which is why I had egg on my face about telling folks to add Bam Knight this week. I do think if you need the roster spot, the Cardinals are dropped. And if you're still holding Bashol too, and that blew up in everybody's face. That was a couple of weeks and they just can't get anything going in the running game whatsoever. But when I look at these teams, you're not dropping a starter. You're certainly not dropping a Lions player. You're not dropping a Rams player. You're not dropping Ashton Genty. But when you're not dropping either of the Seahawks running backs or Travis Etienne. So really it's just, if you're holding one of these Cardinals running backs, Josh, I'm fine with dropping them.
Yeah, I'd be fine dropping any of the Cardinals. As I read off earlier with Etienne's schedule, guess what? Tootin has the exact same schedule.
Yeah.
So, there's a chance that maybe
he
after,
gets his shit back together.
These down weeks, we get more of that split that Liam Cohen kind of wants. He said he wanted to get Travis Hunter more involved. Guess what? That came to fruition.
Yeah.
We know he wants to run more of a 2-back system. So this is kind of that time with this bye week to get that formation implemented and for Tootin to become more involved in this rush attack. So I would prioritize dropping the Cardinals before Tootin. But again, I mean, 19% of the league's on a bye. Like if you're desperate, it's okay to drop Tootin.
And now let's talk about some real desperation, because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with this. I have 5 names here, Josh, and only one of them I think is an easy drop. I think Jameson Williams is a drop. I think Jacoby Myers is a drop. I think Trey Tucker, the other Raiders wide receiver, is a drop if you need him to be. I'm not saying you have to drop these guys if you need the space. And I think Cooper Kupp's a drop. I think the only one that you could not argue here, like Jordan Whittington just didn't do what we expected him to do in this first week with no Puka Nacua, and there's no guarantee Puka Nacua is not on the IR. There's no guarantee he's missing extended time. So.
Yeah, I think by all reports, they said like week 9 he should be fine.
Yeah, coming out of this bye.
Yeah, that's why they held him out for London, because they had the bye week next, and then week 9 should be fine.
What do you think about JMO, Josh? I think JMO's the one that's going to raise some eyebrows.
Jameson Williams is definitely going to raise some eyebrows. I'm actually curious what his stats have looked like over the last couple of weeks, because he's not seeing targets the way that we really want him to. And
wide receiver
against Tampa, literally 2 targets, 0 catches.
Wide receiver 44 on the season. He did drop 18 on Kansas City last week before dropping 2, 5, and 6 in the previous 3 games. He has 2 good games this entire season.
And guess what he did in both those games? Scored a touchdown. If he's not scoring a touchdown, he's pointless. He's useless. So, yeah, I mean, I would be more than fine just adding him into this list. Like, at this point, kind of similar to Cooper Kupp, he's a name. That's it. Like, you're hanging on to name. You're not hanging on to what is this person actually doing good for me this season.
Yep. And when I looked at these tight ends, Josh, it was kind of the opposite. You're not dropping McBride. You're not dropping Bowers, though maybe you'll push back on me on that, but you're not dropping Bowers and you're not dropping Laporta. And then when you look at the other 3 teams, Josh, you don't own any of their tight ends. So you're definitely, it doesn't matter. You're not holding on to Elijah Arroyo or whoever the fuck is starting for the Jaguars right now.
Johnny Munt, who can't catch.
Yeah, Johnny Munt, or which flavor of the week the Rams are getting involved. So you have to hold McBride, you have to hold Bowers, you have to hold Laporta. If you somehow are holding another bye week tight end, feel free to drop them.
Yeah, the only thing you can hope for when it comes to Bowers is that because the Raiders are on a bye, your fantasy platform doesn't switch him from off
so you can
or out, so you can hold him in your IR spot. Because I've seen Sleeper do that, which is great. They don't change it, and I love
Josh,
that.
I did that with Evans. Oh no, they haven't had their bye yet. I must have, I don't know. I'm getting confused. I just don't remember if Evans went to the IR or not. So, what a fun debate. We're going to get back to the chat here in just a second. I'll remind you guys one last time, like, subscribe, do all the things you need to do to help us thrive on YouTube. If you happen to be listening on Apple or Spotify, go ahead and hit that follow button. Josh, chat's popping off. Let's get into it. Michael, with a last name I'm not going to butcher, bought ATN in week 2, sold him in week 7. This is how you succeed in fantasy footballs. Congratulations to Michael for a great way of doing fantasy trades. Keenan, do we think it's time to trade QJ? Almost feels like Travis Etienne. It's probably time to trade QJ.
I don't think so.
No, I know you've actually been higher on him than I expected you to be this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's a top 15 guy for me. So I want the pieces in a high-flying offense. That's exactly what they are. Like, they had to play a lot of catch-up this week. Because of that, he's going to lean on Keenan Allen. That's the guy that he trusts, Colts struggled covering slot receivers. Worked out great for Ladd McConkey. That's all that boiled down to. So, Quentin Johnson caught a touchdown. Like, I'm not, most of his value comes from touchdown, sure, but he still sees volume when they're throwing 35, 40 times a game.
I'll say what I always say. If you don't need him and you can turn him into a running back, I'm probably good with trading him.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing. It's like, don't sit here and pretend that, every player is untouchable. Like, if you get the right return, I'm willing to trade anybody. I don't care how great they are.
Yeah. Oh, ain't that the damn truth. Jay just giving us a little early 2000s hip hop booty rocking everywhere. Harry Brooks, bench spot, needs to pick one. Calvin Ridley, Kayshon Boutte, Romeo Doubs, Wan'Dale Robinson, Oronde Gadsden, or Tez Johnson. For me, it's Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah, it's Boutte.
Yeah. I say we've kind of been debating these same players the entire show at this point. Thoughts on Drake London, trading Drake London and Bill for T. Higgins and DeAndre Swift? I'm not giving up on Drake London. I want the Drake London side of this all day.
So does Flacco's last start give you confidence that Higgins is going to be fine, that he's not just some like boom or bust sort of wide receiver 2 anymore?
No, I think he's still T. Higgins. It just happened to work out really well in this game.
Okay. Is Swift not a big upgrade for Bill?
I mean, he certainly looks that damn way.
I mean, if Jaden Daniels misses significant time, Bill's barely an RB3.
You're right.
So, and that's really what I'm getting at here. Like we were high on Higgins because we knew that Joe Burrow was going to throw the football. And when I say we, I'm saying we as the fantasy industry.
Okay, gotcha. Because
I was not high on Higgins. He was an overpriced wide receiver 2 for me. I had him like wide receiver 28 preseason. And it's simply because he's a 1,000-yard, 6-touchdown guy. That's what he is. It's what he is literally every year. But because he was like wide receiver 5 or 6 in points per game last year, because Joe Burrow, had a pop season, people just assumed that they were going to do it again. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
The argument was wait 3 rounds and get George Pickens, who can basically do what you're paying up for Higgins.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're seeing, right? I understand that London is exponentially better than Higgins in their current roles. But these last couple of weeks, we've seen they're not afraid to throw the football with Joe Flacco. They're going to sling it. That is this offense. You're not going to get a 40 touchdown season from Joe Flacco, but you can't tell me that Higgins can't do 7 for 80 and then sprinkle in a touchdown here and there every week.
And then you know what I mean? Upgrade at running back.
And then you get the upgrade at running back. Like, this is a move I'm okay making if you feel that you desperately need that upgrade at running back. But for me, it also depends, what does my wide receiver situation look like? Because right now, I think you can make the argument that Higgins might be on a more consistent trajectory than Drake London. Because you're still dealing with a young quarterback in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That, yes, he's going to hyper target Drake London on many occasions, but then you're going to run into good defenses like San Francisco where you don't have much of a ceiling.
Yeah. I get it, and you're not wrong about the running back upgrade. I'm still not probably making this trade, and it's funny because I have Drake London and Bill on so many teams right now. So with the Evans news, Harry Brooks says Tez Johnson a must-add. We wholeheartedly disagree. Number 1 waiver priority for us at wide receiver this week. Jaquarius Johnson asks, will you hold Tracy or drop him for Spears? Josh, maybe it's just me holding on to Priors. I'm a Tyrone Tracy guy. I'm holding on to Tyrone Tracy.
They're the same guy.
Ain't that the damn truth?
They're the same guy. I mean, maybe grab Tracy simply because he's in and I use this term very loosely, better offense. But, but I mean, like, the way that Cam Scatterbo plays, like, he's one hit away from like a concussion that leaves him.
And then Tyrone Tracy's the starter again.
And then Tyrone Tracy's the starter again. Yeah. So
Jaquarius throws in, is this a buy low opportunity on Godwin? It would have to be really low for me, Josh. I'm not prioritizing getting Godwin, but if I can get him for dirt cheap, I'm talking the second to last player on my roster somehow, I guess I'll go get him at that point.
I'm trying to think like your range for buy low here. If you could trade Tony Pollard to get Godwin, would you do it?
Nope. I'll hold on to running back.
I'm trying to think who else would be kind of in that similar conversation.
I would trade Kamani Vidal. I would trade Isaiah Pacheco. I would trade Nick Chubb.
So you're talking like RB3s, basically.
It would have to be my RB3. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. And I would have to also feel comfortable that I have somebody else. I don't know.
Again, like these are the types of moves that you make with some foresight, but they're risks. 100% they're risks. Like, we know what Godwin's ceiling is. Like, and he's got a quarterback that's not afraid to throw it.
I have a 2-5 struggling ass team right now. I may go out and try to buy Godwin in that league
But again, see, for me, if I'm 2-5, that's not a kind of move that I'm making. If I'm 5-2, that's a move I'm making.
Oh, I get it, but I'm getting like if I can get Godwin for cheap, and maybe he is a good wide receiver 1 for me rest of season, it hopefully drags me up the rankings. I don't know.
But otherwise, you're staying at 2-6 and 2-7. Like,
but I got him
because to me, when you're sitting at 2-5, you don't have a lot of expendable assets. Your team is shit.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
I'm just saying. Like, coming from somebody that has a couple of 2-5 teams, like, it happens, you know?
Yeah, it's been rough. Not 2-5. Quincy Davis, 7-0, got offered Genty and Lamar for Achane and Higgins. Because he lost JD5. He told the guy no. and he wanted Scatabo and Lamar, and he accepted. So he has CMC and he has Ibuka, lost Evans. So the long and short is it looks like he got offered, or it looks like he got Scatabo and Lamar for Achane and Higgins. How are we feeling about that trade?
Kind of feel like I still prefer Genty, but
yeah, I mean, the fact that he has CMC so he can start Scatabo. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you would have rather gotten Genty back in the trade. I probably would have as well. The long and short is you traded for a quarterback, and I'm not mad at it. Losing JD5 when you're sitting here at 7-0, you're building a championship team, and I do think you need an elite quarterback.
Types of moves. Don't love getting rid of Achane, but I mean, even though he's performing well, it's a bad offense, and bad offenses lead to unpredictability, especially in fantasy. Luckily he's good enough from a pass catching perspective that it typically doesn't matter. I think this is a pretty decent sell high on Higgins, honestly. You're covering yourself with adding Lamar, but again, you could run into a situation where maybe Lamar doesn't play this week and now you've got to add a third quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So a little risky, but is what it is.
Josh, we got a super chat. Almost
love it. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Great names, think alike. Ashton Genty and Emeka Ibuka to get Jahmyr Gibbs. Josh, this is a big pay up. But my God, you cannot argue with what Jahmyr Gibbs has been doing on the football field lately.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for weeks now. Like, if I'm trading Ibuka, I'm getting an A+ piece.
Yeah.
Genty is not living up to draft capital, and a lot of that is he's on a bad offense. So, we should have baked that more into projection. This is a deal that I'm willing to make.
I'm willing to make it as well. The only thing I would look for, the person you're trading with has to drop somebody. Try to get another piece back because you're giving two very good pieces for the best piece in the trade.
I mean,
no doubt.
You're giving a wide receiver 1 and an RB2 for a top 3 running back. I think that's fine.
Yeah, and you know what, Josh? Sometimes
make this trade and then go pick up Tez Johnson.
I was gonna say sometimes you know what? Let me own up to my own mistakes here, though. Sometimes offering that counter blows up a deal and fucks everything up. Just accept this one. Get Jahmyr Gibbs and get your ass in the playoffs where you belong because that's a great fucking trade. I love it. Start May or Knicks. Josh, I'm not benching Drake May come hell or high water, plain and simple.
Dude's a QB3 in fantasy. He shouldn't even be in start sit questions. No offense, Jason, but
yeah,
I understand where you're coming from. Knicks had a 40-point week this week, right?
Knicks had a 40-point quarter.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Like, so I get that. You're not sitting Drake May. You're just not.
Don't sit Drake May. Quincy, would you drop Bourne for Tez Johnson? Absolutely.
I think we answered this already.
Yeah, I was just saying, not from Quincy, but for
I know.
many other people. But yes, we are making that drop all day long. Millie Mills says, if it isn't obvious yet, you start your wide receiver 1 against the Texans because Stingley does not travel. How the hell was Stingley not on JSN last night as he continued to eat them alive?
And Stingley still got his interception.
Yeah.
He found a way to get his INT. Like, JSN is just, I will say it for the rest of the season. I was so incredibly wrong on JSN.
Yes, you were.
He has morphed into a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He is playing outside. He's playing all over the field. And Clint Kubiak is not sticking to his guns and actually running a system that is working. JSN is that fucking dude. So I personally don't care what corner he's going against. You're starting him, plain and simple.
Yeah. Stephen George says, do we prefer Mason Taylor or Gadsden the rest of the season? And Josh, I've been struggling with this one from the minute he asked this question. I'm going to go Mason Taylor because he's the number 2 option on this team no matter what. And I'm going to hope we see better QB play.
Give me the guy in the better offense, Gadsden.
Oronde Gadsden. Yep. I totally expected and accept that answer. R. Sweezy, thoughts? Oh, this is
same.
Yep, that's Ryan who jumped into the super chat. Good looking out, Ryan. And Zach, wrapping up the questions for this round before we do one last segment and then finish the show off with questions. Would we start Woody Marks over Brees or Chimere this week? My God, what a world we live in. Woody Marks against the San Francisco 49ers. Brees Hall against the Cincinnati Bengals. Alvin Kamara against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Josh, I'm probably going to start the 2 big name guys, and I'm probably going to regret it, plain and simple.
I think I'm still going Brees.
Yeah, I'm going.
I'm going to expect Tyrod Taylor to start.
Yes.
And if that's the case, he's going to have a full week of practice to get whatever he needs going. I think you need to value Brees for his receiving chops this week.
Yep, that's where I stand as well. What about Chimere, though, Josh?
I don't think his role changes any. And his role hasn't been all that impressive.
Yep.
So.
Well, Zach throws in Judkins. No, you're starting Judkins no matter what. And then I want to let Jason defend himself. We do have to remember Nix is playing the Cowboys, which is
and again, 100% understand that. The Giants are a pretty bad defense too, and he didn't do anything until the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, the long and short is this. This is not a knock on Nix.
Yeah.
This is I'm not benching Drake May.
You're not benching Drake May, correct. I mean, look, this is how I would put this. Would you ask the same question if May was Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
No. And that's what he's playing like.
And that's what Drake May is playing like right now.
Yeah. All right, folks. Last segment of the show. Get your questions in now. We will answer them before we go off air. I call it deep sea diving. My home league is a 14-team league. These are the players you're looking at in the deepest of leagues. Shout out to Millie Mills. My only quarterback I could find for this section is Michael Penix. It's a decent matchup going into this week against the I was going to say the 49ers, but that's who they just finished playing. Drawing a blank on who they're playing. Oh, Miami. It's a great matchup going against Miami. You want to start Michael Penix this week. At running back, again, these are the deep plays. Jeremy McNichol still involved in the passing game there. Isaiah Davis is the only other running back besides Brees. Devin Neal now becomes the RB2, and we talked about Brashard Smith, who saw some time in junk time, and Jaden Blue starting to see a little bit more run. Maybe he's going to be someone who matters now. Might be worth an add in the deepest of leagues. At wide receiver, Malik Washington got a little bit more involved this week, and that was against a way better defense in the Browns than Atlanta, though I do want to give Atlanta their due. They've played really good defense, but Miami should have to throw a lot. Elik Aymanor is not a guy who I'm just forgetting because I like Chimere Dike now. He is still an add in deeper leagues. Darius Slayton should be coming back from injury. Hollywood Brown is somehow still involved. Chris Moore, if they're still dealing with the injuries there. And then, as I mentioned, Alec Pierce is really developing into that deep role with the Indianapolis Colts, and that's a completely different team with Daniel Jones at tight end, Dalton Schultz, target monster, K. Dotton, one of the only pass catchers left. And then controversial, I guess, I have Freiermuth and Smith in this section, the deep section, because the problem is, Josh, you don't know who's going to score. This week it was everybody. Next week it might be nobody, and that just worries me a little bit when it comes to the Pittsburgh tight ends.
Yeah, pretty much. You summed it up. Don't really have much to add, honestly. I mean, all the pieces there. This is why they're deep league guys. There's some hurdle, limited playing time, etc. Injuries happen. Yeah, I get it.
Yep. And then I'll just throw Zach up here as we wrap up the show. Josh got it exactly right in the chat. It's Judkins and Brees. If you are starting two of these guys, those are the two we are starting. That wraps up WireTapped. I will remind you guys, Club Fantasy, Josh, are we live tonight or are they pre-recorded again?
No, they're live.
Okay. So tonight, Sideline Banner with Sam Holt and Derek Tate goes off at 10 p.m. live. That is the first Week 8 preview. And then Josh and I will be back on the air tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Good luck in your waiver bids. This show will be back 11 a.m. next week. We'll see you guys then. Have a great day.